Okay, I thought I'd do a video on these Insink aerators. If you look online, there's been a recall on the single outlet Insink aerators because the water's been making it down to the control box. So I've had that problem the first month I had mine, and mine's a dual outlet, it's not in the recall, but I wound up using a syringe to suck the water out of the control unit on my first one. And where's that intake? So there's the vacuum line intake. So I took a syringe and a plastic hose, hooked up to this, sucked the water out of it, and shook it, got the water out of the control box because the micro switch in there stopped, vacuum actuated switch stopped working. And then I had to clean out the diaphragm because water gets down in here. So that happened about the first month I had it because wet fingers getting on the diaphragm as you push and depress the button allow water to get down inside the diaphragm assembly here. So what you have is you got a water resistant diaphragm. I'm not going to say it's waterproof because water can get through these if they wind up failing, and it'll track down through the hose. Now I had 3 loops in the tubing. I used all the tubing. I had it looped under the sink, so the water got through all the loops and wound up getting into the controller. The real only way to get around it is to have the controller higher than the valve, but that's not going to happen. So I've come up with an alternative. Now this is the replacement because I kind of called and raised hell with Insinkerator. I called the recall line and said, look, you know, I'm having a problem with the dual outlet unit, and this is what's going on. It sounds similar to the problems which cause you to have a recall on the single outlet unit. So this is my solution. So what you're going to do is you're going to take excuse me, you got to take your unit, the finger actuator, right, and you're going to take a fork. You're going to shove it down inside the actuator without damaging this little diaphragm in here. Okay, sorry it's hard for me to do this and show you what I've done, but bear with me because you need 2 hands to do this. I'm going to try and do it with 1. So if you shove a screwdriver down in there, you can see how that screwdriver, don't push too hard, you'll ruin the diaphragm, but just slide it down in there till it bottoms out, and then you're going to take a drill bit about 1/8 inch, and you're going to carefully go up, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7th thread from the bottom, and you're going to drill a hole on either side, and the fork is going to make sure you don't screw up the diaphragm with the drill bit, right? And then to test the diaphragm, I'm going to hold the outlet of the diaphragm and they press on top, and I hear no noise. I haven't damaged the diaphragm. See, there's no squeaking. So what this is going to allow is this going to allow your wet finger, as this is put together like this hard plastic piece, this is just trim, presses down on this diaphragm, which forces air through the vacuum line into the vacuum actuated switch. And the whole point of this design is to keep electricity away from water. The problem is your electricity is here and your water tracks down through the line if there's a damaged diaphragm and gets inside here. Now, it's not a good thing. So that was the solution. Now you're probably saying, well, my wet finger gets in here, water gets inside the diaphragm, and what's going to happen now is it's going to drain out of this assembly under the sink, and it's going to drip water into the sink. Well, it's not going to be a lot of water. And what you need to do is you need a wicking agent. So my wicking agent is a brand new sponge. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the vacuum actuator plunger, and you're going to draw an outline on a sponge, and you're going to cut a circle, and then you're going to have this like this, okay, and then of course you cut into it, and then you put a rubber band or a zip tie, not too tight, but it's going to go around the whole sponge just to kind of close this off, right? So, and then you're going to have that sponge, after it's installed, over the holes right at the bottom. See what I'm doing? So when it does leak, because a little water is going to leak, it's going to get absorbed by the sponge, and it's going to evaporate, and it's not going to drip down under your sink. So that's how you resolve this problem. So let's recap. You take your actuator right here. You shove a fork down on the side until you hit the bottom, and the fork's going to stop your drill bit from damaging the diaphragm in here. You drill your hole here and one here. Now any water that gets in here, I'm not going to have a standing puddle of water inside this diaphragm assembly to damage the diaphragm or whatever have you. So also, you can't push down. That's another thing I've noticed. You got to be real gentle with these buttons, you know. You can't just slam them. You'll break your diaphragm. So hopefully this helps some people out. You want to put 2 little drain ports in here. You want to have that wrapped with a sponge. And any water that goes down inside the diaphragm assembly trips out those holes I made, gets absorbed by the sponge evaporates it out, and so what happens is the diaphragm, if it gets damaged, will allow water to go down in the vacuum line. There's one way around that, and that's to have a gosh, now I got to think of what you would call it. Basically, you would have an inline housing for like a small bottle in line. That what that would do is, let's say this would be my small bottle that I can unscrew and drain, but it would have a port on this side and a port on this side. It'd be airtight, and then the vacuum line would hook up to either side of that small bottle, and the bottle would be a catch for the water that would get down in through the vacuum line, and it would fall down to the bottom of the water, and the vacuum line would still produce enough pressure to actuate the switch. So that's what they really need to add to these, just as a safety device. But I don't know, you know, I could definitely make something like that, but it's beyond my money for time value here. It's not worth my time to go through all that crap to do this. So in the intern, if you're having to wait for shipping or having to wait, a quick way, but you got to be careful because it's not grounded, is to put one of these switches in that you can buy at a hardware store. And that buys you a little time. But if you go flipping that switch with a wet finger and you're not grounded like you're supposed to be, well, you're going to electrocute yourself. So I don't recommend that. Just an idea. So if you're a homeowner and you do that and you kill yourself, I'm sorry. I didn't recommend for you to do that. Okay. So hopefully this helps somebody out with the Insinkerators and issues if they're having problems with water getting into them or them not working. And that's what's going on. So hopefully that helps somebody out. Over and out.